Well, hello. Welcome to our Called to Kindness live stream. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Faith Radio is in the midst of a Kindness Always initiative. And so I like to think of it as kindness always, not just kindness all the time, always, but kindness in all ways. Like, what are all of the different ways that we could demonstrate kindness, show kindness, activate kindness with one another? So tonight we're going to talk with kindness advocate and provocateur, Nicole Phillips. But before we bring Nicole on, we're actually going to hear my colleague and friend Susie Larson talk a little bit about the Kindness Always initiative. Here's Susie.
No matter who you are or where you live, a random act of kindness can change the world. Hi, I'm Susie Larson, host of Susie Larson Live, and I want to invite you to participate in our Kindness Always initiative, because when you live generously, you can literally change the world. And it's one tangible way to show people that God loves them. You can learn more at our website at myfaithradio.com. You can even download a card that gives you fresh ideas about how to engage in random acts of kindness. Live generously and change the world.
All right, so we are called to kindness. So what does that look like? And some of you are saying, hey, my one of my love languages is gifts. And so I'm hoping that you're going to show some kindness tonight by giving some things away. Well, yes, in fact, we are. So be sure you stay tuned. We've got a lot of great giveaways tonight, and we'll be telling you how you can enter to win those in a little bit. Nicole Phillips is a kindness advocate. She spreads the message of kindness every day in a number of different ways. She is the host of the Kindness podcast. She has a weekly column, Kindness is Contagious. If you live in North Dakota, South Dakota, or Minnesota, you probably read her weekly Kindness is Contagious column. You may also have read one of her books. She is the author of Kindness is Contagious, 100 Stories to Remind You God is Good, and So Are Most People. Kindness is Courageous, 100 Stories to Remind You People Are Brave and Kind. And then her most recent book, which is The Negativity Remedy. And we're going to talk about all of those tonight. So Nicole is just precious. You're just going to love her. I'm really going to let her tell some stories on herself as a way of introduction as well. So let's bring her on. Nicole J. Phillips. Welcome.
Hey, Carmen, it's so great to be here. Thank you for this honor. I've never been called a provocateur before, so
You
I looked it
totally
up.
are.
As Susie was talking, I looked it up, and it says it's one who provokes. But then it also says the Latin meaning is from is behind the idea to call forth. And so I thought, ooh, I want to provoke people. Yeah. And I want to call them forth to step into what God made them to be. So how fun to be with you here tonight. Thank you.
It's so fun. You're totally a kindness provocateur. Like we should get you a t-shirt that says that.
It makes me want to wear my leather jacket, which I don't have on right now, obviously, but
There you go.
so.
You
I think
go,
if I'm
girl.
going to be we could get matching ones. That would be fun.
We could. I probably wouldn't wear it. Okay, so let's let's have you tell people a little bit of your story.
Absolutely. So there's actually two parts to the story. The first part is 10 years ago. And I think that people can look at people who, show up, they put on lipstick, they're wearing, matching shoes, and they can think that person's got it all together, right? And 10 years ago, I was on the edge of what anyone would call an alcoholic. So no one would look at me and think that really behind the scenes I had anything negative going on. But I was an alcoholic. I was a drinker, a smoker, an overeater, and I was really kind of the queen of negativity. I was angry at my husband all the time. And, the thing is, Carmen, is I had three beautiful children, healthy, and we lived in a nice house. And, we wanted really for nothing. We had meals on the table and everything a person should have and be grateful for. And yet I really felt like life was passionless and pointless and mundane, something just to kind of be endured. And so someone might say, well, clearly you were depressed. Yes, I was. I was on antidepressants at the time, and that wasn't doing the trick. And it was 10 years ago that I had an interchange with a young mom, and I ended up giving her a little bit of money. And it wasn't anything I had ever done before, and she certainly didn't ask for it. But through that small act of giving and her saying yes, I got back into my car with this high, unlike anything I had ever experienced before. And I wanted to chase that. I wanted to know what that was. And at the time, in hindsight's 2020, but at the time, I had no idea that that was really God taking me by the hand. And there's a translation in the Message Bible that says, God is kind, but he's not soft. In kindness, he takes us firmly by the hand and leads us into a radical life change. And that's what he did for me that day when I happened to give this young mom some money, because I went home and I wrote down that story and I submitted it to our local newspaper, and they gave me a weekly newspaper column, and we called it Kindness is Contagious. And the idea behind it was to have people send me their stories of things they had done and how it made them feel, or times when kindness showed up just when they needed it. And so, because I thought, I can't be the only one who's got this great high from an act of kindness. I wonder if other people have experienced this as well. And so the neat thing about that column was it held me accountable week after week after week, because imagine, Carmen, how often do you have to write a weekly column? Can you guess?
I'm guessing you have to write one every week.
Yeah, they want it every single week. Yeah, it's crazy. So, they didn't say, "Oh, if somebody sends you a great story, send it to us." No, this was a weekly gig. Like, it had to happen. So I became really intentional about noticing the kindness around me. So, being a witness to other people's kindness, being the giver of kindness myself, but also to really notice when I was receiving kindness that I probably just brushed over before. And so, within a year of writing that column, everything had changed. I had totally quit drinking. I had quit smoking. I lost 30 pounds. I really fell in love with my husband. I really just got grateful for life. And I just I couldn't keep that secret to myself. From that point on, I had to share what I knew about kindness and what it was doing in the body with other people.
So Nicole, everything from that point forward has just been great. There haven't been it's all been steady as she goes, uphill,
Oh,
perfect. No, there's another part to the story as well, right? So, because there's the first book of 100 stories, The Kindness is Contagious stories. And then there's a second book about kindness being courageous.
mhm.
You learned something about courage along the way that I think will speak to our listeners and viewers tonight as well.
Well, I sure hope so. And it's courage. And for me, it's forgiveness and what God can redeem in our lives. So when I was a little girl, I was in third grade. My mom fell in love with a prison inmate. And my mom is joining us, by the way, right now on this live
Hi,
stream. So,
mom.
hi,
My mom,
Mama.
my mama is probably too. So
Oh,
watch
it's a
the movie.
mama show. I love it. So Mama Jean's joining us right now, I'm sure. And but the story really is that, anyone can make a decision that leads them down a path that they never imagined that they would go down, right? And we can think we're protected from it. We can think we're too smart for that. But the fact of the matter is, my mom would say, don't give the devil a foothold, because that's what happened, in her marriage with my dad. They gave the devil a foothold, and my mom ended up falling in love with a prison inmate. She had worked in a men's prison at that time. And so, I'm in fourth or fifth grade. I'm the flower girl in the prison chapel wedding. And at the time, I really thought it was very cool because I got to do things that none of my friends got to do. I had all these really cool experiences of going every other week with my mom into the prison and visiting this inmate. And it was after that, Carmen. It was the going from 10 to being, 13, 14, 15 years old, where all of a sudden I wasn't interested in being different. I wanted to be very much the same as everyone else. I wanted to live in a house with a mom and a dad who were married. And I really felt rejected, and I really hardened my heart toward my mother through high school and college, and then after I had my own babies, my heart was still so hard. And I would say I forgave her totally, no problem, and I would go on with my day-to-day life. But when she would call me, I could just feel the venom just kind of oozing up out of my lungs and through the phone line. And so I ended up, once I started on this kindness journey 10 years ago, um, I had this idea that I was a fraud, just an imposter, because I couldn't extend kindness to the one person who needed the most, and that was my mom. And so I turned to God and I just said, God, I I want to like her. I do. And so show me what you like about her. Show me what you love about her. And it was very interesting how faithful God was to my heart when I finally humbled it toward him, because Carmen, he said, you know, okay, basically, I didn't hear a verbal okay from him, but I started to get really curious about my mom. I wanted to know, like, what was life like for her growing up? And what happened the day, she entered the prison and this man introduced himself to her? What could possibly cause that sort of affection? And so I started asking my mom those questions, and my mom was gracious enough to answer and to share some things about her past that were very, very painful from her own childhood, and even her relationship with my dad, and things like that. Things that, as a wife myself, I could all of a sudden identify with. And I could
Mhm.
see, oh, now I understand, Mom, why you always said to me, don't give the devil a foothold. So we just we just have this really beautiful relationship now, Carmen. It's something I never would have imagined, and I'm just grateful that I got my mom back.
So I love the kindness stories that you tell. I love that you're willing to tell on yourself and acknowledge the challenges that have come along the way. If you guys are watching and listening right now and you're thinking to yourselves, I'd like to engage and interact and let Nicole and Carmen know I'm out here and I'm watching and I have a question or I have a comment, or I have a kindness story to tell myself. You will see, if you are on Facebook or on YouTube, you will see a chat option right there, that's available. And so go ahead and utilize that, and we will be able to
Mhm.
see what you're saying, and would love to interact with you in that way. Nicole, there are you list 7 misconceptions related to kindness. Can we walk around in those a little bit tonight?
Yeah, I love that. Let's walk around. Let's tiptoe around those. No, we're not going to tiptoe. We're going to just stomp all through them, because I'll tell you what, like, I have learned way more about kindness over the past 10 years from things I've done wrong than from things I've done right. Because, it's kind of like those things that you do wrong kind of stick with you, and you think, well, I don't want to do that again. And so I can think that I can sit down and write these books, and I can go give a presentation. I love to be able to talk to groups, and I can go and do that. And then I can think, yes, I've got this right. And then it'll be 7 o'clock in the morning, and I will have told my 10-year-old, hey, I need you to brush your teeth and get dressed. And he'll be frogging around in the kitchen doing who knows what. And I'm like, I need you to get dressed. And I'll think, oh,
And everybody watching
yes,
is like, yeah, totally. And that's where we live. There's no question about that.
yeah, yeah, I'm a
Absolutely. And
long way from perfection.
that doesn't end when they're 10. All right. So I think we have a slide of the 7 misconceptions. Maybe we can pull that up so we can walk around in it.
Yeah, absolutely. The first
Yay.
one, yeah. I feel like these are like what Nicole learned from getting kindness wrong. Like, that's what we could also call it. But the
Okay, that's
first
the new
thing,
title of the slide. The new title of the slide, what Nicole learned when she
from
got it
getting
wrong.
kindness wrong.
There you
Yeah,
go. Okay.
absolutely. So the first one is that kindness comes from our abundance. Now, I had previously thought that the people who really did kind things, the ones who went out of their way to be kind, those were the people who had a lot of money. They had extra money. They had enough that they wanted to give it away, right? Like, oh, I don't need this. I'll just give this to someone else, sort of thing. and these were the people who had the extra time. Oh yes, they're retired, so they have all this time, or they're a stay-at-home mom, so they have all this time. Well, I have been both retired and a stay-at-home mom in my 45 years, and I will tell you, no, that does not make for any more time in anyone's day. um, so, and then I thought it was people who were just tremendously talented. Yes, if I knew how to play the harp, I would play the harp at church. Absolutely. And what I found out was that God is so good about using the little bit we have if we come with an open heart. And so I remember the first time that um, I met a woman, and it was a very sad story. Actually, I met her. I was living in Fargo, North Dakota, and she had come from Texas to Fargo, North Dakota. And when I met her, she was at the edge of herself. She was trying to figure out what to do next and didn't have any friends. What happened was that she and her boyfriend were coming from Texas to Fargo to stay with a new friend. Well, when they got here, they realized that the new friend was really only a friend of the boyfriend. It wasn't a friend of the girlfriend. It was going to be a new girlfriend for the boyfriend. So if that all makes sense. And so all this woman wanted was to go home, and she needed $200 to get there. And I met her through a friend of mine who worked with a women's organization. And I thought, we do not have 200 extra dollars. Like, this will make a dent in our budget this month. And so I didn't want to tell my husband, because I just felt like I was supposed to help her. But I was still new at this kindness thing, so I didn't want to tell. I just wanted to do what I wanted to do. Well, I did. I bought her a bus ticket to go home. And then I had to go home, and I had to say to my husband, hey, I just felt like I was supposed to do this. I'm really sorry that I didn't discuss this purchase with you ahead of time. I know it was a lot of money for us, and I'm sorry. And he was very gracious, and he likes to say, it's the glory and splendor of the mystery that is my wife. Do you like that, Carmen? He has said that so many times in the 20 years of our marriage. The glory and splendor of the mystery that is my wife, because he can't quite ever pin me down. So what ended up happening from that conversation was, he said, I don't mind that you want to give. He said, but maybe we put together a giving budget. Maybe we figure out what works for us together and what we're both comfortable with, so that we have that extra. And I did not do it. It's been 10 years. I'm still working on putting together a giving budget, but I will tell you, Carmen, here's the thing. Kindness doesn't come from our abundance, because God is so good at filling in the gaps. He just always gives me the time that I need, the treasure that I need. And if there's a talent, the talent that I need to be able to fill someone else's need.
So kindness comes from our abundance. What's another misconception?
All right. Well, I printed them all off, and then I use my highlighter because I like to be uber
That's good.
prepared.
Check 'em
But
out.
they're also
Kindness.
on the screen up here,
So the
I now noticed.
misconception. Yeah. So here's a misconception for you. Kindness is something you do.
Hmm. Do you feel like kindness is something you do, Carmen?
Kindness is. I think that for me, it has become. I mean, I'm hoping. This is like I'm setting this out there as my hope. It's become my default approach. So it's less
Awesome.
something I do and more like an attitude. Like
Yes.
I could choose in
Yes.
any moment to frankly treat people as if they are less than image bearers, or I could treat them as if they are image bearers. And if I treat people as if they are image bearers, then I am going to be kind.
Yes. Yes. You nailed it. You nailed it. That's
All right, well, let's
exactly it.
skip that one then. Well, we
O-
get that one then. Let's do this one. Kindness
Okay.
is about others.
Yeah, I always thought
Of
it was
course
about
it
other
is.
people. Yeah. So I really felt like, when I give, it's for the other person. I forgot that whole Proverbs 11:17 thing, like a kind man benefits himself. Like, oops. And so what's really neat is that science and God's word just line up. They are so married in this purpose, this calling on our lives to be kind. So there are 4 feel good chemicals that are released into our bodies when we do an act of kindness. And so, those chemicals are released not only when we are the receiver of an act of kindness, but also when we're the giver of that act of kindness, and when we're the witness of the act of kindness. And so I don't know what's in your social media feed, Carmen. I'm sure it's all very nice stuff. But for anybody who is out there who says, I have some junky stuff in there, you might want to just fluff it up with some inspiring, good news stories, because that's how we get those chemicals moving into our body if we're not being the giver or the receiver in that moment and just the witness.
Absolutely. All right. So misconception number 4, giving is giving,
Yeah.
which
So
is
let me
sort of
ask you
like all
this.
calories are equal.
Oh, totally, exactly.
So
I
come
never
to
thought
find
about it
out,
that way.
yeah. So come to find out that's not actually true.
I know,
No,
right? When
they're not. There's good fat and bad fat. There's actually like good sugar and bad sugar. Yeah.
Mhm.
All calories are not equal. Neither is all giving. Go ahead. Tell us
Yeah,
about this.
the fat from my avocado, not the same as the fat from my Snickers bar, but whatever. It's satisfying nonetheless. Okay, so giving is giving. So would you say you feel better when you write a check and put it in a donation envelope, or would you say you feel better when you actually get to talk to somebody, let's say at a homeless shelter that you're sitting down to a meal with? What makes you feel better, Carmen?
So because I'm an acts of service person, um, for me, any kind of shared experience is superior to, a piece of paper with some numbers and my signature on it. Yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely.
Yeah. And so researchers have found that to be true for people. So for the majority of people. So really, if you want to get that helper's high, if you want to have those chemicals really flowing through your body, there needs to be some personal contact. It really has to be intentional. And so that means that, I'm not telling anybody, don't write a check to the homeless shelter. By all means, they need your money, right? Money is what buys food. So, um, but instead of just writing a check to the homeless shelter, or making a dish at home and dropping it off, which is also lovely, it gives you time to think about what you're doing. Sometimes we need to sit down with people who seem to be different from us, who maybe don't seem to be image bearers, as you call them, and just seem like we could not have anything in common right now, and we just need to have a conversation and find that bridge of compassion and figure out what makes us alike. And I love to talk to people who are without a home, and I don't wish people to be without a home, obviously, but if I see somebody who is, I like to stop and have a conversation and just say, I see you, I'm wondering, how are you today? And sometimes, it's great. They'll tell me how they got where they are. And, I can ask, are you cold? And if you're cold, like, do you want to go to a shelter? Is there a place you want to be? And many times I'll find out why they aren't at the shelter. And it could
Mhm.
be, a pet that they love, and it's like their one thing that's tethering them to love and life, and they can't let it go, so they won't go into the shelter. But it's amazing what a person can learn if you just stop and ask somebody.
So, there would be some great ideas attached to being prepared to interact and engage with people who, are in the kind of need that we're talking about. I have a friend who, she always has a backpack in her trunk that is packed with all kinds of things, and because she intends to give the entire backpack to an individual, and then once she gives that backpack away, she goes home and she puts another backpack together and puts it in her trunk. And she says she gives away about one a month. And so it's not like she's out there actively searching out people to give this backpack to, but it has socks, and it has some personal toiletry type items. It has
Mhm.
some gift cards. It has some high protein snacks. And she always puts then in a personal note. And so she doesn't include a Bible. I know a lot of people would do that, but she includes a personal note. And it goes along the lines of what you just described. I mean, for her, she was a single mom when she was very young. And she felt like there were a lot of people who, although she knew that they saw her, they acted like they didn't.
Right.
And she said, I never want another person to feel like they're not seen. And so
Right.
her personal note is always about Elroy, the God who sees. And she includes this a little bit of the story of Hagar. And then she includes a little bit of her own story. And then she just says, I just want you to know that you are seen. And so it's an act of kindness. It's very intentional. It's very intentional. I mean, she's putting the whole thing together and she's putting it in her trunk and she's always ready. I know there are other people who will keep like gift cards or granola bars in their glove box so that they can just reach over and grab something that's very tangible to put in the hand of a person who's asking for something or in need of something. But this takes it kind of a whole step further. So we want you guys to have all the ideas that you need, which, by the way, there are 365 really good ideas at the end of
The negativity
the
remedy. Yeah.
I was like the remedy book, the negativity
Yeah.
remedy, which is an excellent book. And we want you to check that out. And you can go to NicoleJPhillips.com and see all of her books and connect with her directly. So Nicole, let's circle back. We haven't finished the 7 misconceptions yet. I think we are on number 5. So we probably need the slide back up.
Well, it
Since,
has to do with
I like it.
coming up. Yeah. Coming up with my own ideas. Yeah. Kindness requires my brilliant ideas. That was a big misconception for me. I really felt like I had to come up with, like, maybe the backpack thing, Carmen, like, okay, I've got to figure out exactly what I'm going to do the next time I see a homeless person and like have everything prepped. Well, that is a brain suck, right? Like, who's got time for that? Then all of a sudden kindness becomes this job that you have all the time.
Right.
And yeah. And so the interesting thing for me is I found that God knows what people need before I do. Imagine that, right? Like he can see the big picture and he knows. And my favorite time that was illustrated to me happened when there was a woman who was living on our neighbor's lawn in a tent. She was a recovering drug addict and her name is Dawn. And she is a lovely woman. I still am in contact with Dawn, but it was 2015 and I had breast cancer. And I woke up about 4:30 in the morning with just this terrible cloud over my emotions. And then I look outside and it's storming out there. And I'm laying there and I think about Dawn and how Dawn is going to get up from her bed in the tent at 4:30 in the morning, right at that time. And she's going to walk across town to her job at the dry cleaners. She's got to maintain a job before she can get housing through the social services program. So it was important that she got there every day and she was determined to stay clean. So I thought to myself, Dawn's getting up and she's going to walk in the rain right now. I should go help her. I should get up. No, I should call her a taxi. No. And then I got mad. I got mad at God in that moment laying in my bed. And I was like, listen, I am depleted financially, emotionally, physically. I've got nothing left to give God. Like, do not ask me to do this for this woman just because I'm this kindness advocate, provocateur, right? Like, no, I can't do it. And I'm embarrassed to say that I rolled over and I went back to bed. I fell asleep and I woke up and later that afternoon I was driving in town and wouldn't you know it, there's Dawn walking on the side of the road on her way home. And so I rolled down the window and I say, hey, Dawn, do you want to ride home? And she says, no, it's beautiful out. I'm just going to walk. It's great. And I said, are you still walking to work every morning? Because it was really stormy this morning. And she said, yeah, I am. But by, the next paycheck, I'll have enough money to buy a bike and that'll get me there a lot faster. And the light bulb went on, Carmen, like, boom. I said, You need a bike? I have a bike in my garage. It's just an extra. No one is using it. No one is going to use it. You can have it. Come and get it. Come and look at it. And she was like, oh, okay. So the thing about Dawn is she was very, very shy. I can tell that she lived a lot of life feeling really unimportant and unseen. And so when Dawn came to my house and she walked up the driveway, her head was kind of down and she kind of looked up and I said, how about, does this work for you? Do you want it? And she was like, yeah, I'll be sure to bring it back as soon as I've saved enough up for a bike. And I said, no, Dawn, like, I don't want you to borrow it. I want you to have it. And she looked at me in that moment with this skepticism. And she looked at me as if to say, well, what are you going to want in return? And she said to me, why would you do that for me? And all I could think of was, have you had so few people help you out in life that it seems like a foreign concept? And so I just said to her, Dawn, I see how hard you are working. I can't imagine what it's like to make the choice every day, multiple times a day, to stay clean, to stay sober. And you're doing it. You're transforming your life. And it's so beautiful. And I see it. But more important than me seeing it, God sees it. God sees you. And it's just like what you said, Carmen, with the note that the woman wrote. I wish I had thought to put backpacks together and to write it down, because then people could go back and remember again and again and again with the written word. But I just said to Dawn in that moment, like, I see you. God sees you. And so she took that bike home, and I learned my lesson of what Nicole has learned from kindness about getting it wrong, which is that kindness doesn't require my brilliant ideas. I don't have to be in charge. I just have to be open enough to the prompting of the Holy Spirit to know when God is prompting me to do something.
So that one's really good. And I think that being on the lookout is huge. So you're describing it as a prompting of the Holy Spirit. My friend Jessica just calls it BOLO, be on the lookout. That there are people, right? Yeah, BOLO. So I just think that living with an awareness that God has actually prepared in advance all the good work that he intends us to do.
Yep.
And, and so we need to be on the lookout for that. We don't have to come up with a great idea, but we do have to be responsive when the Holy Spirit nudges. Like, obviously you heard her say, that she's working toward buying a bike, and you're like, we got a bike. Yeah, exactly.
Hey, one thing about that, Carmen, that I'm asked a lot during my speaking presentations and things, when people raise their hands for questions, it's usually about this. And they want to know, how do I know it's the Holy Spirit? And how do I know it's not just me? And so that is most definitely a tricky thing. But you know what? I have found that even when if I give somebody money and, they're going to turn around and use it for drugs, or they're going to use it for something, that God can still redeem that. So, my neighbor, the one who had the yard that Dawn was living on, she gave somebody $5 at a gas station. And instead of putting gas in the car, that person she gave it to got in the car and drove away. So, well, my friend thought she was stranded. She wasn't stranded. She just wanted some money. And I said, didn't that make you mad? And she said, no, because in that moment, I know I was called to give it. And I didn't want to go home and think about, should I or shouldn't I? And so she said, I gave. And she said, I know that this can work out for good. She said, because my daughter was a drug addict who got a hold of some money, who bought drugs, who was then caught and put in prison. Now, that might sound horrific, but from my friend's point of view, she said, listen, my daughter, it saved my daughter's life. Like, she was safe in prison. You can't overdose there. She's not using when she's in prison. It gives her time to clear her head and think about what she really wants for her life. So she said, yeah, you know what? I don't know what's going to happen with that $5, but God does.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. All right, we've got one more misconception on the list. Oh no, we have two. The world is full of difficult people. Okay, well, the world is full of people just like Nicole and Carmen.
Right.
And your husband describes you how?
The glory and splendor of the mystery that is my wife. He sees the good, and that is the whole thing. Like, what
That's
you
the
look
whole
for is
thing,
what you'll
right?
see.
That's the
Like,
whole thing. That's exactly right. So,
put on your
because
specs. Look for the good people.
I love that. Those are so cute. Okay, and then kind people always get it right. No. I mean, let me just go ahead and dispel this one. No.
But what if you love Jesus?
I do love Jesus, and sometimes I get it very, very badly wrong.
Yeah, right? Exactly. So we can't fault somebody else who loves Jesus for the times they get it wrong, just like we can't. Even God's girls have bad behavior sometimes, and we just have to lead with grace, because that's how God leads us. And we're all a work in progress, Carmen. So yeah,
That's exactly
that's
right.
it.
All right, let me say to everybody, you are welcome to chat us up. There's a chat feature on both the YouTube and the Facebook page that wherever you're watching this right now, you can chat with us. And we want to encourage you to check out Nicole's website and all of the incredible resources that are available there. You can find her podcast there. You can find her blog. You can obviously find her books. And by the way, her books are a part of the really fantastic giveaway that we're doing as a part of tonight's live stream. So thank you, Nicole, so much. Those are that's so great and so wonderful. We have some other really cool stuff in the giveaways tonight as well. A brave and kind canvas, which that's so cool. Oh, look, we have a whole list. Okay. The Kindness is Contagious book. We are also giving away the Kindness is Courageous book and the Negativity Remedy, which we're going to spend the last few minutes today or this evening talking about the Negativity Remedy, because that's just so good. And then the Brave and Kind canvas, and Faith Radio put together a kindness basket that includes lots of really fun things, encouraging us to be kind and to continue as a part of the Kindness Always initiative, responding to our calling to be kind. And so in just a couple of minutes, we're going to tell you exactly how you enter into the drawing for all of those great giveaways. And let me just tell you, you don't have to be watching this live to enter the giveaway. We're going to keep it open for a couple of days. So that's a really fun kindness to people who were not able to watch the live stream live. All right. So Nicole, talk a little bit about the negativity remedy. When did you discover that negativity was a problem for you?
It
Like,
was.
remind me, is this the book that talks about the inner meanie?
Oh,
Identifying your inner meanie? Okay, because you and I talked about this book on my show once.
Yes. Yeah.
And,
Yes.
and then
So
my
this came
family,
out.
we talked about the inner meanie. Like, everyone has the inner meanie.
Yeah. So what's the inner meanie, right? Like, people are like, do I have one of those? And I feel like the inner meanie is that voice inside of you that snaps, that judges, that is constantly like, it's the one that you just wish like would go away. And the good news is it does get quieter and quieter. I think, Carmen, the closer that we walk with God, and the more intentional we are about kindness, don't you feel like your inner meanie gets smaller and smaller? It'll always be there in some respects, but do you feel like it gets smaller in your life?
Yes, it gets easy. It gets easier to identify.
Okay, that's a good way to put it.
I'm faster to recognize the inner meanie now and call it out, shut it down, invite Jesus to like take that thought captive, invite the Holy Spirit to bring me into conformity in that moment. So I think that as I have matured in Christ, that is one of the ways that I have grown up. The inner meanie is definitely still there.
Yeah. Yeah. And I
But
think it'll always be there. Yeah. What?
Well, no, and I just think I have learned to deal more quickly when it surfaces.
Right. And I think that's the best any of us can do. And if you want a specific example of, if you're out there and you think, well, now what does that intermediate actually look like, so that you can pinpoint it in your own life? You know, let's say you're driving down the road and somebody pulls in front of you and then like slows down. I mean, do you pull up right at their bumper so that they know that you know that they had bad behavior there? Or do you just think to yourself, oh, wow. Maybe that's a mom and she was up late with her kids last night. Or maybe that's an elderly person and they're just they're just not aware that I'm even here. Maybe they're distracted. So it's the inner meanie that automatically wants to jump to the I've been offended mode, and like you are out to get me, or that bothered me, it bumped into me. And so being able to identify that in that moment and then reject and replace those thoughts is really important. And it all goes back to what God says about, renewing our mind and taking our thoughts captive. And so it's very biblically based, even though they're very secular principles, you could say. So, for instance, if you see a woman at the grocery store and she's wearing a outfit that you might consider inappropriate, you can, your intermediate might just jump in right away and say, ugh, that is a very low cut top on that woman, or that's a very short skirt. And you're making a judgment about something that doesn't affect you one way or the other, but yet your mind just went there. And so for me, when I started this 10 years ago, I would say to myself, I reject that thought. Whether it was a negative thought about myself or somebody else, I reject that thought. And then, since that's not quite enough to move you to the next place in your brain, I would help my brain find a new place to park by having a replacement thought ready. And so for
Mm.
me, I didn't know the fruit of the spirit 10 years ago. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Like, there are children's songs about it, but somehow I missed them. I did not know the fruit of the spirit. So I wrote them down on a piece of paper and I kept it in my pocket. And when I would find myself, my inner meaning, like loud and clear, I would say, I reject that thought. And then I would try to remember love, joy, peace, patience. Then I forget. I pull out my piece of paper. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. And I'd have them right there. And when that was done, I moved on, and I memorized whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable. If anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. And, so like, this is not rocket science. I'm not inventing anything that
So good though. That's so good. It's so practical. It's so good.
but it comes right from the Bible. It's right
Oh,
there. It's just a matter of pulling it out and saying, that's how I'm supposed to use that in my life. Oh, for me,
you're
it
like,
was, at least.
it's in the Bible. That's a really good idea.
Yeah. Yeah. Funny about
Right?
that.
I mean, well, I think that it's possible that we've set the Bible on such a high shelf sometimes that we have forgotten how intensely practical it is. I mean, what you've just
Yes.
demonstrated is here is a way to use scripture to actually help me. I mean, actually help me, be a help to me. That is awesome. How has kindness changed the climate in your home over 10 years? Because
Whew.
one of the things that you talk about early on is your marriage. And so first of all, I think we should say congratulations to Saul, who is Coach of the Year. And
Aw.
if you live anywhere near them, you know that because as an act of kindness, their neighbors erected a giant Coach of the Year sign in their yard.
How fun is that?
Totally fun. I love that. It's
It
totally
makes
fun.
me giggle. But the scary thing was, I was sitting on my couch with my child, two of my children, and the dog. And none of us noticed that they snuck in and put this ginormous sign in our front yard. And all of a sudden, one of my kids looks outside and said, "What's that in our yard?" And I look and I thought, no way.
That's so fun, right?
So fun. Yes.
That's
Yeah.
so
That
fun.
that was
All right, so
very, very sweet.
congratulations to Saul in the Division II men's basketball NSIC
Conference.
champion.
Yeah.
Go
Yeah.
Wolves.
Yeah, the Wolves. Oh, you've done some homework, Carmen. Wow, thank you. I feel really special that you would, yeah, think about that.
I feel like
So
Googling. I feel like Googling is an act of kindness on my part. It's good.
it was, because look at how special you made me feel in my personal life with that. So thank you for that. Thank you for Googling. The climate in my home changed dramatically. My husband, who is quite the wordsmith, with the glory and splendor of the mystery that is his wife, he would before say to our children, "Careful, Mount St. Mommy's about to erupt." And that was his cue to them that I was going to lose it. Like I was getting angry. They needed to pull it back, they needed to calm down or whatever. Um, and it's funny because the climate in our home changed when I stopped throwing temper tantrums. So my
Mm.
kids are now 17, 15, and 10. And so, 10 years ago, they were 7, 5, and newborn, right? And so they could still throw temper tantrums when they needed to along the way because they were kids. But as a mom, I didn't have to meet them there. And I didn't really realize how often I did meet them and how often I let my inner meanie say, "This is how we're gonna roll." And if it was little stuff, even Carmen, it was like if my husband threw his socks into the laundry hamper, but they missed and they ended up on the floor, he would leave them there, right? And he, like me, I'm like, I gotta get up, I gotta put those in the hamper because that's where they belong. Well, he would leave them there. And my inner meanie would say to me that was him not caring about me and being respectful of me and my needs. He wanted me to do extra work. He was creating more work for me. And that whole dialogue in my mind changed when I started to be intentional about my thoughts and then intentional about kindness together.
That's awesome. That is so good.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we only actually have a few minutes left, and you have this great resource at the end of the Negativity Remedy, these 365 kindness ideas. So I thought it would be fun if we did some of those. So can we
Okay.
turn to that page and do some of the 365 kindness ideas? And let me just remind everybody, if you want to share with us your story of kindness, you can do it at myfaithradio.com/kindness. Maybe we'll pass those along to Nicole so she can write her next book, because people are doing all
Yeah.
kinds of great stuff as part of the Kindness Always initiative. So we'll share them with you. All right. So
Would
let's
love
do
that.
some of these 365 ideas from the Negativity Remedy book. So Nicole, what's one of your favorites?
120, number 120, rather than having that big rummage sale, give everything to a thrift store. And I'll take it one step further. I will find things in my closet that remind me of people and I will give it to them. And if they don't want it, they can take it to the thrift store. But at least I can say, I was thinking about you. I thought you might want this.
Okay, I am now serving as a conduit of regifting. Now see now if my mom's listening, this is going to be bad.
Okay, go on.
So
Just
mom,
skip over.
sometimes you give stuff to Tiana, and frankly, she just doesn't need it and can't do anything with it. And so she sends it to me, and then I find someone to discreetly gift it to.
Wow, you just
I
you
know.
just put it out there.
I just outed myself. So you can be a conduit though of regifting if necessary. Like serve your
Yes.
friends in this way. Sometimes sometimes people need help getting rid of their stuff,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, they do.
And
They do.
other people need the stuff. All right,
Mhm.
can you read the one on helping a Girl Scout sell as many cookies as possible? Is that on the list?
Well, no, because I mean it's in here, but I can't tell you which. Oh,
Yeah, no,
188. Help a Girl Scout meet her goal by buying as many cookies as you can afford. Have you ever done that?
okay. So what I was going to tell you was because of COVID, like this was a real challenge this year. And so I might have bought a lot of Girl Scout cookies from one little Girl Scout who was quarantined at home, and so were her parents. So she couldn't even use
Oh,
use the parent to take the cookie sheet and get it filled out at work because nobody was
right.
going to work. Well, so anyway, so I might have some Girl Scout cookies.
So they have a brand called Thanks a Lot. I don't know if they have it this year, but they have. And I bought all of the Thanks a Lot cookies because I wanted to put a little note on them to thank people for whatever thing they had done for me. So
Okay,
I
so
thought that
this
was
year's
like,
cookie, this one, I don't know if you've heard about the lemon leader.
what's
The
that?
it's a lemon cookie, and they're all printed. They're imprinted with like a little verse or saying, or like you are extraordinary, or you are a leader, or you are all the cookies. And so I bought lemon leaders and gave them out to people who serve in leadership, but not like in some kind of official role or capacity. Like I see you
Yeah.
leading in our Bible study, or I see you leading in our yeah. So anyway, so there you go. People who don't think of
There's
themselves as leaders all got lemon leader cookies this year.
there's going to be a huge rush on Girl Scout cookies, tomorrow. When people are like, I'm going to do that. I'm going to go buy them the next time I drive by one of those, little spots.
Yeah. All right, go read me another one.
Leave a plant for the families of those you see in the newspaper obituaries. This I got from an actual woman in Fargo, North Dakota, and she would read the obituaries and then she would go buy a little plant, or she had, little baby plants or whatever. And she would put them on the front step for the person and just say, I'm thinking about you. Isn't that
That's
sweet?
so nice.
Mm-hmm.
That's so nice. All right. Go for a walk and pick up litter is one of the 365 ideas in your book.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And we were actually on the way to church this morning, and Eliana, who's 17, said, I was wondering if maybe we could have a family service project where we take a trash bag and she's at a particular road near our house that she's concerned is getting a little trashy. And I said,
Mm-hmm.
oh, well, sure, we could totally do that. Virginia says I pick up litter. And so what we talked about was, so thanks, Virginia, for letting us know that. What we talked about was how you can literally, as you're picking up litter, like you're like reclaiming a part of God's good creation and your stewardship over it, and you're like throwing Satan in the trash. So this was going to be our
Oh,
motive for younger brother who's not too excited about a family trash picking up party,
yep.
but
Yep.
that he could throw Satan in the trash seemed like kind of a good thing.
Right. Yep. That is cool. What a great way to look at it. I hadn't looked at it like that before.
All
I
right,
love it.
Stephanie Conwell says, "Oh, I think this is about the lemon leader cookie thing. That's such a
Yeah.
sweet message for those who don't have leader in their job description." Yeah, like every mom out there, just
Yeah.
give her some lemon leader cookies today because she
Right.
deserves them.
Or even,
Absolutely.
a teenager who's just is doing the right thing. I see how you're leading in your school. Like that's good stuff. Yeah. Absolutely. Number 231, put loose change in a jar each day and then donate it up when you hear of a need. And so that's a great way for people who are like, I want to give financially. I cannot give financially. You'd be surprised what ends up in the console of your car. So a little jar there will help tremendously.
Okay, so here's a crazy little COVID act of kindness. If you know a small business in your community, you could just take your change jar to them and leave it for them because change is actually really hard for them to get because we have apparently a coin shortage in America right now. So there you go. You don't even have to, you can just give it to a local business, any local business that's making change. They need your coinage. There you go. It's
I had
super
no
easy.
idea. That's
I know.
fantastic. Love that.
All
By the
right.
way, leave a Yelp review. Leave a Google or a Yelp review or whatever for your local
That,
businesses too.
and buy
Hmm.
gift cards.
Buy
Buy
gift
gift cards
cards. Yes.
because they get the money right away, and that's a really good
Hmm.
thing. for them.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. We're completely out of time. This is so much fun. So Nicole, can you join me tomorrow morning on the show and we can talk a little bit more?
Yes. Yes. How fun. Okay,
Let's do that.
let's do it.
So Nicole is going to join me tomorrow on Mornings with Carmen. So you should tune in for that. But now we're going to tell you how you can enter the giveaway for all of the great stuff that we are giving away tonight. So first of all, you want to visit Nicole online at NicoleJPhillips.com. But we're giving away copies of her books. So book giveaway number 1 is Kindness is Contagious. We're also giving away a copy of Kindness is Courageous. And we're giving away The Negativity Remedy. We're giving away a beautiful Brave and Kind canvas and a Faith Radio Kindness basket. How do I enter to win one of these? You say to yourself, you just go to myfaithradio.com. Dun, dun, dun. I feel like I'm supposed to say more than that. That's what my sheet says.
/giveaway.
Oh, /giveaway. Oh, there it is on the screen. Thanks be to God and to Justin. myfaithradio.com /giveaway. All right. Do you see it? Do you see it, people? myfaithradio.com /giveaway. You can enter. You get to tell us which one of these things you really want. So there you go. If you really want the Kindness is Contagious book, then you want number 1. They're all on there. You'll figure it out. myfaithradio.com /giveaway. While you're there at myfaithradio.com, you can also tell your kindness story, share your kindness story with us. And you can, there's lots of other cool stuff. And then you can see how you could download the Faith Radio app if you've never done that. And you could listen live when Nicole and I are going to talk again tomorrow on Mornings with Carmen. How fun is that?
Cannot wait. Yay. This was great.
All right.
Thank
and
you,
everybody
Carmen.
should jump in on the Kindness Always initiative. We got all kinds of stuff going on. Join us. We'd love to have you. It's really fun. Nicole, what a joy. What a pleasure. I won't see you again in the morning, but I'll talk with you again tomorrow morning.
Good. Then I don't have to wear makeup. I can come in my jammies.
No.
Will do.
Exactly right. Love you. Thank you so much for doing this. Such a pleasure.
My pleasure.
All right. Good night, Nicole. Good night to all of you. We'll see you back online at myfaithradio.com. Good night.